Now at 9, we are looking at this rain to finally move out, but now we're looking at fog through the overnight hours.
Plus, a bus crash in Berkeley. A driver now facing charges. Tonight, a witness describes the moments leading up to the chaos.
Then tornadoes tearing through parts of Illinois. Now people are left picking up the pieces.
Victory over the Vikings in Foxborough. The Pats coming out on top in a major matchup.
And a proposal goes south on a busy New York street until NYPD steps in.
7 News at 9 starts now.
Now at 9 o'clock, all that wet weather we had today is now moving out. Live look at the radar as we begin to start to dry out. But now parts of New England are in a bit of a fog, aren't we all? Live look at Boston right now. You barely even see the skyline. Trust me, that is Boston. So the question is, what are we going to see tomorrow morning?
Good question. And for that, we're going to head over now to meteorologist Heisel Martinez. She's tracking it all for us.
Yeah, so the fog will continue into tomorrow morning. But thankfully, after that, I think we actually might see a little bit of some clearing as we head towards the afternoon. Earlier today, we saw a good amount of some rain, about a ½ an inch to an inch for a lot of us. Here in the city, we saw a ¼ of an inch, about there. The same thing in Norwood and in Bedford. Worcester saw almost an inch of some rain. That is slowly starting to push out. A shower or two that's lingering from the system is possible tonight. Really, we're just left over with the fog and the mist. That will continue, as I mentioned, into tomorrow as well. Here's a closer look to show you that we still have a little bit of some green popping up here and there. That is just some leftover moisture from this system. Temperatures right now are gradually moving up, and that's because a warm front is lifting through our area. So for tomorrow, we're looking at a pretty nice day with temperatures in the mid-50s. Enjoy it, because slowly a cold front will move in and really drop our temperatures Monday night. Notice on Tuesday, temperatures are expected to be into the mid-30s. It's going to be breezy and cold out there now. We are looking at that dip in the jet stream to continue through the rest of the week. So if you like mild and kind of cloudy, you'll like tomorrow. But if you don't like sunny and cold, that's going to be the story for quite some time. I'll have details coming up in your full forecast.
And tonight, a driver is facing charges after a school bus crash in Berkeley. And now investigators say more people were seriously injured than they first thought. 9 Team's Nathalie Pozo is live in Berkeley tonight. Nathalie, we're hearing from a witness now who saw the crash happen.
Justin, that witness and his friends dialed 911 as soon as they saw that bus go off into the wooded area and then rushed over to help get people off of the bus. Tonight, authorities say several people are seriously injured, including children.
More than 20 people are rushed to the hospital when this school bus full of parents and children goes barreling into the woods along Route 24 in Berkeley.
We got there was approximately 25 of the patients on the ground spread out.
About 25 agencies responding to the scene just before 10 Saturday night. This man was in a car behind the bus when he says a car hit them.
And then she started swerving in the middle of the road. And then she came and caught the bus in the front, and then the bus hit her, hit the car, and then both of them flipped over.
Authorities say this Subaru and the bus, operated by First Student, were heading southbound and lost control. The 27-year-old driver of the car was charged with OUI alcohol second offense. But whether the driver from Warren, Rhode Island played a role in the crash is still under investigation. Officials say about 23 people ranging in age from infants to elderly adults were on board. Several adults, including some children, suffered serious injuries.
The injuries were anything from broken arms to head injuries, facial injuries. We're not sure, but the possibility of a collapsed lung.
Police say the group was made up of First Student employees and their family and friends who were returning to Tiverton, Rhode Island from a popular Christmas festival, La Sayette Shrine in Attleboro, when a festive evening took a horrible turn.
We'll keep these people in our prayers throughout the season.
And now authorities want to make it very clear that whether or not the driver played a role in this crash is still under investigation. Tonight, her bail was set at $10,000 cash. We're live tonight in Berkeley. Nathalie Pozo, 7 News Night Team.
Tonight, the nation continues to remember a president. Air Force arriving in Houston, Texas, where it will take the body of President George H.W. Bush to Washington. The 41st president will arrive in the nation's capital tomorrow. The Night Team's Dan Housley is live in D.C. with how the former president is being remembered tonight. Dan.
Well, Nicole, former President Bush spent much of the last years of his life in Texas and, of course, in Maine. But he'll be coming back to Washington within hours, and he'll be coming and going in style. Air Force One sits on the tarmac in Houston, ready to take George Herbert Walker Bush back to Washington for a final farewell. The aircraft, technically renamed Special Air Mission 41, for Monday's journey.
1,000 points of light.
Leaders, politicians, and everyday Americans will honor the full legacy of George Herbert Walker Bush and his impact on the world. The 41st president and war hero will lie in state at the United States Capitol Monday through Wednesday. A memorial service at the National Cathedral here in Washington will follow. Those in his adopted home state of Texas will also have a chance to pay their respects Thursday with a funeral at St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Houston before he is laid to rest at the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library in College Station, next to his beloved wife, Barbara.
He was a receptive person. You could go in and tell him anything, good news, bad news. You just wanted to chat. He was always available to you. And his humility demonstrated itself in so many different ways.
The president's health had slowly faded over the past several years, and his family and friends were preparing for this moment.
He said after Barbara died that he wasn't ready to go. He used to kid about wanting to live to be 100. But that last day was really a very, very gentle and peaceful passing for him.
For the former naval pilot, congressman, CIA director, special envoy, vice president, and commander-in-chief, it will be a remembrance fit for American political royalty. The last miles aboard this special train, painted in Air Force One colors, the Union Pacific locomotive numbered 4141. Former Secretary of State Baker was there with his lifelong friend, President Bush, at the end. He says his final words were over the phone to his son, President George Bush 43, telling him, "I love you." We're live in Washington. Dan Housley, 7 News 19.
The news station will have full coverage as President Bush is laid to rest. Dan will continue his live reports from Washington, D.C. And 7's Brandon Gano will be in Houston, Texas, as the nation pays respect. And stay with 7 for the latest on the memorial services. When we aren't on air, you can find up-to-the-date information by visiting our website and using the 7 News app.
The Patriots celebrating a big win in Foxborough tonight. Brady and the boys claiming victory over the Vikings, and it was a game to remember for TB12, hitting yet another milestone. Sports Director Jeremy Racino is here now with more. Joe.
The Patriots defense doing it to the Minnesota Vikings today, holding them to 10 points and picking off their quarterback Kirk Cousins twice. The Pats improving to 9-3 on the season and holding on to that 2 seed in the AFC. Tom Brady spreading the ball around on offense today. No score in the first quarter. Rex Burkhead making his return from injured reserve and contributing right away with a 15-yard catch on the opening drive that helped set up James Devlin for a touchdown. Pats are up 7-0. Game tied at 10 in the third quarter. Josh Gordon getting in on the action after 0 catches in the first half. It's a 24-yard touchdown. The Pats take the lead 17-10. Then in the fourth, Devlin, the fullback, going over the top of the pile for his second touchdown of the day. He had 2 touchdowns in his career coming into this game. Devlin had a day for himself as the Pats win at 24-10. 7's Trey Dare reporting live at Gillette Stadium with more on the Pats win. Trey.
Joe, offensively in this one, the Patriots getting a lot of guys involved in this game. 9 different guys caught it. 7 different guys rushed it. Tom Brady topping the 1,000-yard mark. That might be a huge story in this one. But really the bigger story, the Patriots showed this offense is capable of taking the game wherever it is needed in order to get the win. The team as a whole, 160 yards on the ground, although Brady did have the 5 yards to make sure he did get past the 1,000-yard mark for his career in year number 19. Brady also throwing for 311 yards on the day with a touchdown. The play calling a bit more creative, and Josh McDaniels able to scheme up some designs to really get some guys free today against Minnesota. James White leading the way with 118 yards total offense. Josh Gordon providing the big spark to break a tie late in the third quarter as the Pats get touches to a ton of guys on their way to win number 9.
7 guys running, 8 guys catching. It makes it hard for them to defend us. So good to have that happen. Hopefully we can keep it going.
Every guy on offense, they hungry. Just like the defense, we all hungry. We all know our role and we embrace it. And every time your numbers come up, you got to go out and make a play. And James' number came up a lot. He made some plays.
It's just sometimes it just goes different guys and. sometimes more to Julie and Josh. There's a lot of guys to get the ball to, so it's just who's ever open usually gets it. I'm trying to find the most open guy.
A lot of diversity on this offense, but not to be overlooked. The job this defense did. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, these guys get theirs against every team in the league. It's a top 5 passing attack for Minnesota. Neither one of those receivers went over 50 yards on the day. We're live inside Gillette Stadium. Trey Dare, 7 News.
Thanks, Trey. The Pats are now winners of 8 of their last 9, and their defense delivered this win today. More on that coming up in 7 Sports. Reporting live in the newsroom, Joe Amorosino, 7 News Night Team.
We're following breaking news. Police in Rentham are investigating after a serious threat was found written on a dry erase board at St. Mary's Rectory. Investigators say the message said, "You shall die. See you soon." Students were attending Catholic classes at the time. They were all released. Police say they're trying to track down whoever left the message, but they're having trouble because there are no surveillance cameras in that area.
And new tonight, police say a person was hit while crossing the street in Revere. This happened on Revere Beach Boulevard earlier tonight. Officials say the victim was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. Police are still on scene investigating.
Also from the night team, concern on campus tonight for students at Wheaton College. Officials say fires were purposely set in 2 bathrooms early this morning, and they're saying this wasn't the first time. The night team's Alex DePrano is live in Norton with the latest.
Luckily, there were no injuries today, but today's 2 fires are being looked at very closely because there was also another fire last week. The fire alarm rattling students from bed at 6 a.m. at the McIntyre Residence Hall at Wheaton College after garbage cans in the restrooms on the 2nd and 3rd floors were set on fire. Last Wednesday, another garbage can in the same residence hall also went up in flames.
I was surprised that it happened again because this is the 2nd time that it's happened. So I just don't understand why it's happening, why it's happened twice in a row, and I hope they find out who's done it.
A security officer put out the fires this morning, and 100 students were evacuated. There were no injuries. The college is stepping up security.
We're increasing the number of public safety patrols around campus, as well as other staff, monitoring all of campus, but in particular residence halls.
To get into the residence halls, students and staff must scan an ID, which means there is likely an arsonist they know in their midst.
It's just hard to know who's doing it and how to stop it if we don't know who's doing it.
Last week's fire was initially deemed an accident, but after today's 2 fires, investigators are now looking at that fire again. Live in Norton, I'm Alex DePrado, 7 News Night Team.
A tragic turn in Harwich. A 7-year-old boy is killed after he's hit by a piece of construction equipment. Happened yesterday afternoon. The child was crossing the street when he was hit. He was taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but did not survive. State and local police are investigating the incident, but they say it appears to just be a tragic accident.
Police are investigating a crushing crash in Milford. 2 cars seriously damaged. Investigators now trying to figure out what happened. Milford police spent hours on the scene. They have not reported any injuries.
And police on the scene of a rollover crash on the side of the highway in Chelmsford earlier today. They say a car went off the road before flipping over near some trees. You can see it here in the images. Fire crews on scene. Investigators shut down the right lane of 495 to clear it all out, and no one was hurt. It's still not clear what caused the crash. In a smoky scene in Rockland, a fire broke out inside of a building along Webster Street this morning. After reports of smoke coming from a 3rd floor heating unit, you could see crews trying to get to that 3rd floor. But the fire was quickly contained. No injuries were reported, but 1 person was forced out of the home.
Wild weather hitting parts of the Midwest. A series of tornadoes tearing through Illinois, including this one in the central part of the state. You can see that funnel cloud there hitting the ground. The storm's leaving behind a path of destruction, knocking out power for thousands. Homes and buildings have been left damaged or destroyed. Tonight, communities are left picking up the pieces following these major storms.
It's a jumper.
A string of tornadoes leaving some parts of Illinois flattened and unrecognizable.
Walking out and just total chaos. Trash, debris, houses smashed everywhere.
The National Weather Service says more than 20 unconfirmed tornadoes were reported in the central part of the state, hurting at least 20 people. In the town of Springfield, the tornadoes knocked down trees, snapped power lines, and damaged buildings.
The second alarm went off. I got my kids and we went down to the basement and about
About 10 seconds later, you know, it was just like a train running through.
Firefighters say that in Springfield alone, more than 100 homes were destroyed and as many as 10,000 customers were without power.
The garage is gone. My car that was in the garage is all smashed. The garage is in the back of my kitchen, blew all the windows out.
In the town of Butler, one tornado ripped through a car dealership, peeling off the roof. The owner says hundreds of classic cars were damaged.
The wind must have been pretty strong.
And it's not just tornadoes. Now people living there can expect rain and snow as they start the cleanup. The National Weather Service says the actual number of confirmed tornadoes will be determined by storm surveys in the coming days.
And people in Alaska are dealing with aftershocks and really, while that area is just rocking that region. The state has been hit by more than 1,000 aftershocks after Friday's 7.0 earthquake. This new video from the quake shows homes shaking as families tried to take cover as quickly as possible. Now some of those people are opening up about what was going through their minds in those terrifying moments.
So the first thing that went through my mind was, earthquake, this is a bigger one than we've had in a while. The dad and me kicked in.
Friday's earthquake knocked out power, ripped up roads, and severely damaged homes and businesses. That earthquake was again a 7.0 magnitude. It's the second largest quake to hit the area since 1964. That quake was a 9.2 magnitude.
7 News now turning to the president's agenda. President Trump says he plans to force a 6-month deadline on Congress to vote on his new trade agreement between Mexico and Canada. Congress would be left with two options: approve the new deal or risk not having an agreement at all. While at the G20 summit in Argentina, the president and the leaders of Mexico and Canada signed the deal that would replace NAFTA.
And tonight, President Trump is back in Washington, but right before he left the G20 summit, he struck new deals with China's president. The two leaders agreeing to terms on trade and trying to curb the opioid epidemic. President Trump talking progress with China on his return to Washington following the G20 summit.
It's an incredible deal. It goes down, certainly, if it happens, it goes down as one of the largest deals ever made.
The president making an agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping that on January 1st, President Trump will not raise the 10% tariffs he currently has on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. In return, the president says China will buy a, quote, very substantial amount of agricultural, energy, industrial, and other product from the U.S. The president goes on to say China will begin buying agricultural product right away.
And it'll have an incredibly positive impact on farming, meaning agriculture, industrial products, computers, every type of product.
The two presidents also agreeing to tackle the opioid epidemic. China has agreed to reclassify the drug fentanyl as a controlled substance. China's foreign ministry stating in part, quote, China and the United States have agreed to take active measures to strengthen cooperation on law enforcement and narcotics control.
What he will be doing to fentanyl could be a game changer for the United States and what fentanyl is doing to our country in terms of killing people. Because he's agreed to put it at the highest level of crime in this country. Therefore, if they get caught, they have the highest level of punishment. That could be a game changer.
In 2017, a congressional report stated China is the primary source of fentanyl found within U.S. borders. In response to the president's agreement, Senator Ed Markey tweeting, quote, the flow of illicit Chinese fentanyl is fueling the dramatic spike in opioid overdoses. This is a positive step in the fight against the opioid epidemic, but it can't just be a gesture. It needs to be fully enforced. And as part of the trade agreement, the two presidents said they will now begin work on a long-term deal and hope to have a solution within 90 days.
Former FBI Director James Comey says he will testify at a closed-door hearing with House Republicans. This comes after he filed a legal challenge for a public hearing. Comey tweeting, grateful for a fair hearing from judge. Hard to protect my rights without being in contempt, which I don't believe in. So we'll sit in the dark, but Republicans agree I am free to talk when done and transcript released in 24 hours. This is the closest I can get to public testimony. Comey pushed aggressively to have a public hearing, saying he wanted to make sure that nothing he said was taken out of context. Republicans want to question Comey on the FBI's handling of separate probes, including Russian interference in the 2016 election. The hearing is scheduled for Friday.
Also on 7, Boston is celebrating the first night of Hanukkah. Mayor Marty Walsh was at Downtown Crossing tonight to help light candles on the giant 15-foot menorah, along with local leaders of the Jewish community. Hanukkah lasts for 8 nights. It's a Jewish holiday that celebrates the rededication of a holy temple in Jerusalem.
Coming up next from the night team, dropping the ball, or in this case, the ring, a proposal goes south in New York City.
Plus, the radio station in Ohio is pulling a well-known Christmas classic from the air. Why they're saying it really can't stay.
And most of the rain is out of here, but we'll be dealing with fog and mist through tomorrow.
And a lesson in U.S. history, why one couple had issues getting their marriage license.
Tuesday, millions of dollars taken from Massachusetts residents by dishonest lawyers.
It's all been stolen. The money is gone.
Hank uncovered how to get it back.
Do you think most people know about this?
Probably is the best kept hidden secret in the legal profession.
Think you're owed money? Hank shows you how to stake your claim. Tuesday at 9 and 10 p.m.